Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Our last Finance and Administration Committee meeting of 2023. It is Thursday, November 16th, and it is 9:30. I will call this meeting to order. As we gather this morning, I would like to acknowledge, on behalf of this committee and our community, that we are meeting on traditional territory of the First Nations. We thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history. We are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Connie, has roll call been taken?
Through you, Chair, yes, roll call has been taken and we have quorum.
Thank you. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? I see none. Could I have an adoption of the minutes of the meeting held on October 12th, 2023, please? Moved by the member from Killaloe, Haggerty and Richards, seconded by the member from Brunel, Lunduck and Raglan. Were there any errors or omissions? Then I will call the question. All in favor? And those carry. We have no delegations, so I will turn this over to Mr. Kelly for his departmental report, please.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning. Sorry, I was coughing here. So again, good morning. My report starts on page 7, as you will see. So item number 1 is just an update on the service delivery review that we've currently engaged Strategy Corps on. Bit of an update. We meet very regularly, and I understand that they have now completed all the interviews with the chairpersons of each individual committee, of standing committees, and they've also interviewed the senior leadership team and have been working through several documents that we provided to them, including the strategy or the service delivery review they've completed for us in 2020, our strategic plan, and our IT or our digital strategy, as well as similar items of note from certain comparators of upper tier, similar size. I think we're working with Bruce County, Lennox and Addington, and a few others across Ontario, not just Eastern Ontario. So I suspect we will be seeing, or at least I will be seeing, a draft report hopefully by next week, perhaps the week after, and we'll be bringing it back to either this committee or to council in due course. Obviously with colleague to my right who's leaving us today or tomorrow, and my other colleague who's unfortunately not here today is leaving shortly. It would behoove us to review this report very quickly so we can start the next steps of this organization, how we move forward. So just a bit of an update on that report. The agenda management system, quite a long report that both Gwen and I worked on pages 7 through 9. So just by way of an update for the history of the corporation, we have been using, I'll call it old school technology for assembly of reports and minutes and such. Many of your municipalities have already converted to a digital strategy, either using iCompass or eScribe across the county. So we are reviewing a number of different platforms for that purpose. So obviously the reasons are listed on your report, and I won't go through them in detail. However, going back to my old school comment, it has become cumbersome, and as we start to move forward in this corporation and working with the digital strategy, again, it would behoove us to work on some new platform to allow us to get these reports out quicker, less. It's very cumbersome, to be honest, to the methodology we've been using for 30 years. It has worked. I'm not going to debate that it doesn't work. It's cumbersome. We're just trying to make it a little bit more smooth. And we suspect with the transition of those who assemble the reports, that is changing and has changed over the last few months and will change into 2024. So as we recruit new folks to take on reporting, the timing is perfect. I did note, however, on the second last paragraph on page 9 of this, is that we were hoping to use the modernization fund to roll this out in 2023. The deadline to report on that is the first week of December, I believe, or at least within the first 10 days of December. And the timeliness of us pulling the pin on getting one of these proper platforms rolling is not likely to make that. So instead, we'll be slowing the process down a little bit and really reviewing the two main platforms that will be used by your organizations, so we match up. And we've just heard of a third that may be coming on stream shortly too. So this will be incorporated into our 2024 budget process, but just wanted to make you aware that we are working on something moving forward. So Chair, those are the two information items. I can stop there before we move into resolutions.
Thank you for that. All right, so we will go back to information item number 1. Any comments, questions, concerns? Personally, I had a great interview with them. So and quite a long one too. So I was happy to be included in that. Number 2, the agenda management system. All right, then I guess we will move on to resolutions, please.
Thank you, Chair. And I'll read the recommendation and get it on the floor. And this is in support of the EOWC 7 and 7. This is the Regional Housing Plan. The recommendation is that the Finance and Administration Committee recommends to County Council that the County of Renfrew supports the total contribution of $468,000 required for the EOWC, the East Ontario Wardens Caucus, 7 and 7 plus Regional Housing Plan deliverables to March 31st, 2024, as presented by EORN, to be shared equally amongst the 13 member municipalities, with $36,000 being the County of Renfrew's share.
Excellent. I'll ask for a mover and seconder, please, to get it on the floor. Moved by the warden, seconded by the member from Amherst Bromley, and some background, please.
Thank you, Chair. So once again, I'm sure the warden and chair of EOWC might want to chime in, but just by way of background, EOWC has engaged EORN as the project management team to run with the 7 and 7 plus plan. They have more capacity than EOWC has, obviously, that's made up of a number of CAOs and one full-time staff member running the bureaucracy of it all, if you will, and didn't want this to be on corner of the desk type of an item. So EORN was well prepared and well suited to run this large business plan rollout, which is essentially a procurement plan, and it is very similar to what they've done with the broadband rollout. So they came back to the caucus a month and a half ago, saying to roll it out to the end of March is when we suspect that there'll be about 9 key action items that will come out of this. They require some more funding, and that is the $468,000 in its entirety. So as we looked at it, we, as member municipalities, felt that we'd all share it equally, and would distribute the funds based on our own ability to fund this. Internally, speaking with my colleagues in Community Services and Renfrew County Housing Corporation, they feel they could absorb the $36,000 within their RCHC budget, not in 2023, meaning that there would be no additional pressures on the levy in this year because it can be absorbed. So with that, Chair, perhaps, I'm not sure if the warden and chair of the caucus wants to speak to this.
Thank you. This is the ground game part of the effort. Last month, we went to Parliament Hill. We needed, for those briefings, some more detail than I think we're capable as 13 municipalities putting together. We're also starting the consultation with 9 First Nations communities across the Eastern Ontario Wardens catchment area, and again, EORN has that expertise and the relationships. We're also in the process of building out more comprehensive business plans. So on a regular basis, they're speaking with developers, looking at unique situations in communities where developers or not-for-profits have put together projects that might be incorporated into the overall 7 and 7, or their methods and best practices can be used going forward. They've also met with the Ontario Home Builders Association and got some really good feedback. Established a joint committee with them to review the proposal and to fine-tune it. It's helping us fine-tune some of the costs. They're in fairly consistent conversation with Minister Calandra's office and now with Associate Minister Flack. They've also spent time on the with Minister Fraser on the federal side. Those are things that I don't have time to do, Craig doesn't have time to do, nor do 13 other wardens, or 12 other wardens or CAOs, and to have consistent messaging. So if we're going to get this off the ground, we have to educate and form alliances and joint presentations, and we don't have the time to do that, to be quite frank with you, and to absorb all the best practices. So what they do is they prepare us for the meetings and for phone calls. Today I have an interview with the Ottawa Business Journal. I reached out and got more information from ERN and to make sure that I have current information to talk about Stats Canada. Stats Canada tells us across Eastern Ontario we need 42,000 new homes. They're telling us that rent has gone up 12% on a one-bedroom and 17% this year on a two-bedroom. I have the exact numbers. It's in another file. I was scrambling looking for it, but that's for my afternoon file. So those are the kinds of things that they provide for us that I'm not able to get readily, and neither is Craig and it's not a discredit to him. It's just, managing municipalities is a big business, and it's their primary business, and we need somebody to focus on the 7 and 7. So this is the best way of doing it. And as I said, we have a very intense ground game coming up in the next 5 months through until the end of March, and we're going to need the support to do that properly.
Thank you for that, Warden. And I will say, on behalf of EORN, we were happy to take on this project. I know the board is very excited about. I think we are getting a briefing at our November 28th meeting. At this time, it's as the warden just said, it's been meetings and finding strategic partnerships around the catchment area. So were there any questions, comments, concerns? Then I will call for the vote. All in favor? Thank you. And number 4, please.
Thank you, Chair. And as has been the norm, and a bit of a departure from what I would normally do for the recommendation, as you've heard all week, was just a bit of why we're doing what we're doing throughout the week. And I'm very appreciative of the feedback, as are the directors, of the feedback that we've been that we've received at the different committees as we look at the 2024 business plans. So as per the norm, we're bringing this forward to you today from the FNA side. My colleagues again to my right and myself have a series of items we'd like to go through today with you. And recognizing that collaboration between the staff and elective is key, and we want to make sure that from this committee standpoint that we're on the right path to a successful 2024 year. So with that, Chair, the recommendation moving from this committee is that the Finance and Administration Committee direct staff to bring the business plans for all relevant divisions under the purview of the Finance and Administration Committee to the appropriate 2024 budget workshop and planning meetings, including any suggested revisions or conceptual projects or areas of concentration.
Thank you. So that's on the floor. Can I get a mover and seconder, please? Moved by the member from Killaloe, Hegarty and Richards, seconded by the member from Laurentian Hills. Hi, Ann. All right, let's go through the report, I think. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. So again, my piece for the most part starts on page 12, and then I'll ask Mr. Foss to run through from his side of things. So without going into every detail, I'm assuming, hopefully rightfully, that people have had a chance to go through them, but we've taken some big steps in 2023. I think most of the senior leadership team, all of the senior leadership team is proud of what has been accomplished. We started the year obviously with a revised, with a new council, quite honestly, and a bit of training that went on to renew our relationship with the new council, and that started with our strategic plan, which is now posted around the building and working its way into our reports, has been the norm over the last few years. So we are working to bring that strategic plan and the actions out of that into our daily actions. We will be submitting to you a report card before the end of the year to give you an update of where we stand with that. We have taken big steps, thanks to Mr. Foss and Mr. Belmore and crew, on staff recruitment and retention, anywhere from taking a look and providing recommendations to you on vacation timing, through to incentive programs and the like. So we are happy with some of the steps we've taken with staffing and continue to work on that, culminating maybe in our November 30th event that we're appreciating staff at Festival Hall. That's my little advertising plug, just to make sure people register for it. So we're working on creating a different culture here, not that the previous one was bad, but just working with new staff as we move forward. Again, so service delivery is taking a fair bit of time, not service delivery, sorry, shared services is an area of concentration where we continue to work on. Again, we've made great strides in the HR field and some of the other fields, including public works and economic development and development planning. But again, we're working to strengthen those relationships with your local municipalities and our peers at that level. You know, again, we are working on a number of items, and again, without going through them all, we've taken big steps, and now right down to the fact that we're building more homes in the city of Pembroke, which we haven't done in a number of years. So, moving into 2024, you're right off the top, and hitting right the ground running in January, and right off the heels of last Thursday's meeting, which I think staff feels was very successful. In terms of a learning environment, in terms of giving us some direction on moving forward and some budgeting. It's still going to be challenging, and we recognize that, and I know you do too. So we will be working on bringing you with the proper recommendations into your workshops in January. We are working with items of growth, although we don't expect significant growth. There are still pressures in many of our urban areas, and mostly felt by public works. And that development charge study will be brought back to you in February or March next year to decide where we go with those projects. Housing, of course, is a number one item for many across the country. And as we heard yesterday, we're doing our part to review our own stock and what we're going to do with that moving forward after the BCAs are completed, the building condition assessments are completed, and how we renew our stock or add to it or replace that as we move forward through a series of partnerships and or ownership models. Transportation, we have a renewed focus on Highway 417 moving forward. The committee has been restruck, I suppose, and Mr. Perkins has some renewed direction on how we're going to focus our efforts moving forward, and it's actually very exciting as we move into that, part and parcel with some of the conversations around service levels and how we're going to accommodate perhaps a provincial-wide PCI methodology moving out of 2023. Paramedic service takes on more and more. That's not to their detriment. It's a fact of how the health sector is pushing down on us, and thanks to Chief Nolan for taking an innovative lead on that. But again, we're being asked to do more and more. So we will be reviewing that into 2024 and finding funding models to fit with that extra bit of push and trying to find that capacity to do so. Again, of recent note and continuing pressure is the social issues in our area, the opioid crisis, the housing and homelessness issue. We have been brought into that forum, and the warden has struck a committee now, which I believe is starting to meet on Monday, with the city of Pembroke and dealing with that. And of course, the opioid crisis is ongoing. And I believe the request yesterday was to have Dr. Morgenstern, our Chief Medical Officer of Health, attend a meeting in the future to talk about how they are making steps to work through that crisis in the moment. And again, as I've spoken to earlier in today's report, just the corporation as a whole is in a state of change. We have lost, by the end of this year, 75 plus years of corporate memory will be leaving us. And that's a big change. That's a very big change for us as we move forward, and recruiting the proper folks into those positions is going to be key. And we are very resilient, but again, recruitment, do we change things for the sake of change, or do we change them for the sake of purpose? And that will be key to my role moving into 2024 as we look to that. So those are where I'm at in terms of the opportunities. On page 14, I've outlined a few things, again, and going on to what I've just spoken about. Report automation, working on the strategic plan. There has been a soft ask hard ask by some staff, all staff, to review more regularly our Gallagher report, which was launched in 2019-2020, rolled out in 2022, but to keep up to that target that you set for us back in the day. So we'll be reviewing that with Mr. Billmore earlier in 2024. We are unfortunately behind on our diversity, equity, inclusion rollout, so we'll be working on that early in the year, and hopefully we'll have staff engaged with that mid-year. Mr. Davis is working on some really innovative real estate issues, and I'll be hoping to work with him as much as he doesn't want me to on rolling out of an innovative practice on what we do with our I'll call it surplus property. We haven't deemed it surplus, but all of our properties at the moment, to review what we have, what's in our inventory, and how we're going to use it to either use for housing or future purposed. Of course, I've talked about strategy core and the two main items that don't exist on the corner of my desk at all, but they're external to my main role as running the corporation, is our reaffirmation of our relationship with Pikwakanagan. We have been softly engaged with Chief Sarrazin, but we hope to be further engaged. We have our MOU, of course, through economic development, but we want to strengthen that relationship as we work through through the reconciliation, the efforts of reconciliation. And of course, as we've just spoken about, is the work. It's been a pleasure to have the chair of the caucus be a Renfrew County warden for the last 4 years, and I anticipate that that may or may not continue in the future. But to continue to be a key person on the caucus moving forward, it's been a really nice piece of work, and happy to be involved. But the County of Renfrew has always taken a lead on the advocacy role at the caucus, and I'm happy for that to continue. So, Chair, I'm happy to turn to Mr. Foster to run through his as well, if you'd like, or we can stop here and ask questions.
No, but Warden, I think that was a hint.
I'm aware of many hints coming my way in the last little while.
Happy to continue. Happy to continue.
Look at it. No, you know what? Let's stop there. Yeah, just because that was a lot, and I know that the man leaving us has some notes there as well. So let's deal with the CAO's report at this time. Comments, questions, concerns, things you want added, more on his plate. Yes, Warden.
Nothing to add. I'm glad to see the extensive nature of it, to be honest with you, and you know, and the comments about the culture evolving, because you know, the organizations change, and especially as we come out of COVID and still deal with COVID, that's been quite a significant change in how organizations have to function. And I think, you know, the employee appreciation night is a nice change because it's a lighter touch, just as an example. But you know, the talk about changing the agenda and things like that, that's a recognition that time unfortunately marches on and corporations have to change. So and our involvement in issues really diving into opioids and into homelessness and the 7 and 7, all of those things, that they're moving much faster than I think that any of us ever wanted them to, but that's a sign of how nimble we have to be. So I really like I like the breadth of what's being proposed, and I'm glad that we're doing it. It shows that we're on the forefront of doing many things that are necessary.
Agreed, and I really like the format, the way you broke it down for us. It was very easy to absorb instead of just having an essay. It was, right? It was very well done, so thank you. Anything further on Craig's report? Then we will turn it over to the man of the hour, Mr. Foss.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Finance Committee. So similar to what Craig reviewed with you, Corporate Services Business Plan begins on page 15, and just very, very briefly, attempting to tie some of the work that we've been doing in corporate services to the strategic plan approved by Council early in your term and earlier this year. A number of goals were identified for the organization, and so what we did is just sort of collected some of our activities with respect to each one of those goals. And goal number 1, and obviously spent a lot of time last week talking about this, but fiscal sustainability, and of course in February of 2023 during the budget workshop, the warden had requested that we coordinate that special one-day meeting for all councillors to have an opportunity to do a deep dive on an update to our asset management plan and our condition ratings, and of course in the afternoon spending a lot of time talking about the options that are available to us to change the trajectory really of our ability to have a sustainable 10-year planning window. And at that meeting we provided a number of options for council to consider, and of course all of those items will be before you yet again early in the new year, as we or as you anticipate, or as I anticipate that you will enter into another couple of days of budget workshop activities. So that obviously is one of the items that we and corporate services feel are very important under that concept of fiscal sustainability. Goal number 2 was workforce development, and the gentleman sitting beside me had a very, very busy year in attempting to move forward a number of initiatives that we deem to be very important to the organization with workforce development. So one of the big items from on a practical basis was the implementation of a tool that did not exist previously for our HR department and for the staff to use. So we implemented this new HRIS system entitled WorkZoom, and I think that that staff in that department will, to a person, tell you that that tool has been invaluable for us as we, number one, implemented the recruiting module. Just an awful lot of work that goes into the planning for and the activities related to the recruiting process. That was a very labor-intensive and manual process previously, and we've really leveraged that technology to be able to assist our staff in very quickly putting together, sorting through the various applications, the methodologies of individuals applying to positions here at the County of Renfrew, and coordinating all of that activity to help us to select a number of rather ideal candidates for the position, and then using that same tool then to onboard those individuals who are selected to move forward as new employees for the County of Renfrew. So that has been very transformative for us. That tool, the next phases of that tool or that rollout will be in the learning platforms, performance assessment, and leave management. So it's not a one and done, that we will expand the capabilities of that tool. Our use of the capabilities of that tool on a go-forward basis. So that's 2024. We'll begin to spend a lot of time in that, invest a lot of time in expanding the use of that tool. Policy development, we did an awful lot of policy work in 2023. That was one of the goals for the HR manager, and I think he performed very well. But specifically to workforce development, we had a number of policies: vacation, flexible work arrangements, employee referral bonus programs, the employee recognition program, the return of service incentive program. A lot of work was put into improving our abilities as an organization through policy to continue to retain and recruit employees that are going to be effective on a long-term basis. So that was some really good foundational work that was done. And hang on to your hats, because there are more policy changes that are coming your way in 2024. On a regular basis, we are committed in HR to reviewing and updating, ensuring that we are compliant with our policies dealing with our staff right across the organization. In addition to that, our attendance at career fairs, hosting of co-op students, you'll hear about that a little bit later on in today's presentation. Our approval through the budget process of using a benchmark like CPI as being the foundation for changes on an annual basis to our non-union salary grids. That's been a huge change for the organization, and something that we have built into the budgeting process for 2024, and we'll bring that back before you in the budget workshop. Another really significant piece was the work around our international recruiting efforts, and that being very specific to Bonnechere Manor. And so we look forward to the success being implemented through that program early in 2024. And then finally, for us, shared services, that's goal number 4 for council. And we have done an awful lot of work in our HR department on delivering on our promise, which was the approval in 2021 by this council to hire 1 additional human resource coordinator and make that coordinator available to all local municipalities to assist you in dealing with the many and complex HR issues that we all face as municipalities. We've listed engagements in 2023 for 13 of our 17 municipalities. Just a reminder, as you move into 2024, that each municipality is afforded through council resolution 7 free hours of HR service. It's non-billable, and it really gives our HR team an opportunity to meet with you and your administrative team and support you in any way that you wish. And it's a really great opportunity to get to meet our team and get a sense of who they are, their expertise, and their ability to support what you're attempting to do in your own local municipalities. Also, later in this report, we'll talk about our Municipal Benefits Committee, again, another shared service, and we had some really good news that's coming forward to you later today about the impact and the benefits of pooling our benefit plans together. It's certainly, and especially for the smaller municipalities, affords you an opportunity to provide a very cost-effective benefit plan for your municipality and leverage the strength of a larger group. So some good success there as well. And in October, we coordinated, of course, a meeting with all of your CAOs and treasurers on moving the needle forward with shared services, and some really positive comments for that particular day. So in 2024, looking forward again to advancing that initiative on a collaborative basis with each one of your administrative teams. 2024, we're talking about considerations and opportunities, issues for 2024 to be considered for corporate services. Workforce development, of course, will remain a high priority for us. There is lots of pressure out there for recruiting staff, and specifically for very specific positions. We have an awful challenge in front of us trying to find those staff, so we'll continue to do all that we can to work towards that recruitment and retention of those specific staff members. As Craig mentioned, there's certainly lots of activity around ensuring that we remain a competitive employer, and looking at that Gallagher report and our target of the 55th percentile of our municipal comparators, ensuring that we stay within that range. And of course, in Renfrew County specifically, in this end of the county, we're not only competing against other municipalities, attracting them to the county of Renfrew, we have other large sector employers in Renfrew County. Just thinking about Department of National Defense or CNL just up the road from us. And of course, we're competing against all of those folks for talent, and so we want to make sure that we remain competitive. Fiscal sustainability, of course, will remain a high priority item as we move into January in 2024 and that budget workshop. And that budget workshop, of course, will bring with it the presentation that we did last week on asset condition and 10-year capital plans, and so we'll merge those issues together in January during the budget workshop. That's the long-term financial plan as well. Building condition assessments, and that's not primarily a corporate services-led initiative. The folks in development and property will be doing that, but obviously has a huge impact in our ability to be fiscally sustainable. That building condition assessment will enrich some of the information that we provided last week. We talked about facility condition index, and that's really just a financial calculation about the replacement value for our buildings versus what it's going to cost to maintain those buildings over a 10-year planning window. And specifically for Renfrew County Housing Corporation, there's over 1,000 housing units we're responsible for. And I think one of the key takeaways from last week was simply the statement that at our current funding level to the Renfrew County Housing Corp portfolio, we will not be able to maintain our current facility condition index, that will require a new look at how we fund those assets in the future and maintain those assets in the future. And of course, the key element is the building condition assessment. Development charges, of course, came before this committee and County Council in 2023, and Council will need to come to ground on how we want to consider funding our growth across the county, and that certainly is a tool that Council can use to fund growth. So that will be a key decision point in 2024 as well. The last two items on the page deal with provincial offenses matters. Obviously, before us is still the issue of limited judicial resources assigned to POA courts, and this is not a new issue for this committee. There is a little bit of light sort of toward the 2024 tunnel with respect to the number of court dates that we've been provided. The number of trial dates seems that we are looking at potential improvement in that area, and that's good news, but something to remain aware of. Provincial offenses Part 3 transfer. There was a 2-year planning window that the ministry set for municipal partners like the County of Renfrew to sign memorandums of understandings to receive the transfer and the responsibility of prosecuting these Part 3 offenses. These are the more serious offenses that cannot be resolved through a ticketing process. You must appear in court to resolve these matters. We are fortunate in the fact that our prosecutor, municipal prosecutor working with our POA court, has also been contracted by the Crown to prosecute those Part 3 matters at the Ontario Court of Justice, their responsibility. So that's the book of business, if you will, that's coming our way. And so some preliminary discussions with our new Crown attorney. We are considering that transfer, the planning window for that transfer and that documentation to come before you for the second quarter of 2024. And so look forward to that as being an issue in 2024. And finally, at the top of the last page, of course, in 2021, we had Council approving a digital strategy for the organization. We've moved forward with a number of what we felt were our high priority issues and items. And so that was a lot of work that took place in 2022 and 2023, but there's still more to be done. And certainly those discussions with our local municipalities all had a very similar theme, that the sharing of digital information allows us to collaborate and cooperate on a number of fronts. And so that's that common platform of digital information is something that our IT department is looking forward to engaging early in 2024. Madam Chair, those would be the items from Corporate Services.
Thank you for that. Comments, questions, concerns, ideas? The member from Edmundston Bromley, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I commend, certainly for the purposes of this committee, the staff that worked on some pretty comprehensive yet also abridged reporting here that makes them incredibly useful, and all of the committees received their own at their committees. And this is a very high-level whiteboarding. It kind of ties in both the policies, and I'm certainly I'm aware and A lot of congratulations, as Mr. Fawcett said, to Mr. Belmore. We have had quite a number of our HR policies coming in front of us. They were subject to review, and that renewal has to go on frequently. But tying that together with the last item, the digital strategy, it strikes me that we have a very, very useful tool in what I'm going to call the council portal, the password-protected login. And I think that we could be making a lot more use of it. I think perhaps it is somewhat similar to the Perry Group when they made their presentation on our digital strategy overall, that there are a lot of opportunities for us to embrace technology and moving forward. And where I'm going with this is even like the closed material information, corporate policies, whether it's the procurement policy or HR policies, if these were something that through the login process, council can avail themselves of. Not that, of course, there is any change until such time as these come before council, but just to get an impression of what does that policy say? What does that mean? What is required of us in these instances? I think the more information that council has available to them as background, as context, is very useful. I certainly have found that. And as I'm saying, I'm certainly cognizant that there would be higher priority things that we need to emphasize in embracing the digital strategy. But I think that we have a very useful tool in that portal, if you will, and I think it is being underutilized. So that would be a suggestion, whether there could be the beginning, if you will, of exploiting further that element of our digital strategy.
Thanks, Chair. We're noting at every committee these items, and we'll be working some of these into our plans for 2024. No, it's a very good comment.
It would be really useful when we don't, when we change over our computers, we don't necessarily have all of our backgrounds, so that would be very useful. Anything further? All right, I do have a mover and seconder, apparently. We were doing mime with Connie. I'm good for number 4. Okay, perfect. So I'll call for the vote. All in favor? And the report as a whole, may I have a mover and seconder, please? Moved by the member from Edmundston Bromley, second by the member from Broodnell, Lindock, and Raglan. All in favor? And for the very last time, I give you Mr. Jeffrey Foss with the Corporate Services Departmental Report.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and once more into the breach, I suppose it goes. Page 37 begins the...
Murder.
Once more, the Corporate Services Department report on page 37. Item number 1, council remuneration, and that is a statement for the first 9 months of the year to September the 30th of 2023. The second item, and that is attached as Appendix 2, is the September 30th financial statements for the General Revenue Fund, Bonnechere Manor, Miramichi Lodge, Public Works, as well as the separate Renfrew County Housing Corporation. Item number 3, provincial offenses workload. Again, just a statement of fact for this committee. This chart at the bottom of the page represents 5 months, which really should be the 5 busiest months of the year as far as the traveling public and Highway Traffic Act charges are concerned. You will note the first column being the number of charges received, and that 5 months we're averaging about 639 charges, and on an annualized basis that would extrapolate to about 7,600 charges. That is still significantly below what had been our average over the years. There were a number of years where we bumped up above the 10,000 charge mark and 12,000 charges. So we remain, even at our current trend lines over this summer of 2023, significantly below that historical average. That translates, obviously, for the Provincial Offences Court Division into POA revenues or POA fine revenues. So that would, you might expect that there would be continued pressure on POA fine revenues in that department because of those lower average charges. The top of the next page, item number 4, just again, we had been asked some time ago to track Provincial Offences Court backlog of charges. You will see that the first couple of columns, again, those same 5 months we're presenting information for, the number of courts originally scheduled, and the second column, the number of courts that have been canceled. You will see that June was a third of our court days were canceled. Half of them were canceled in July, a quarter in August, a third in September, but October, we had 5 scheduled court dates, and all of them went forward with judicial resources available to us. Madam Chair, I can only imagine that the AMO delegation sent by the County of Renfrew to speak to this issue has had tremendous benefits, and we are seeing those benefits in front of us today. So congratulations once again to that delegation and the work that they did in presenting our case. Would love to be able to see this situation continue into the future. Item 5, just really a summary from Ashley Wilton, our POA manager, about the annual East Region Municipal Managers meeting that was held in Perth. His Worship Kraling indicated that his resources have improved for 2024 and that our Pembroke courts will see a return of judicial availability, and that certainly has been evidenced in October for special trials and from the reallocation of some of the lost satellite court dates. So we're hearing it from the Regional Senior Justice of the Peace. They recognize the issue. We have been blowing this trumpet loud and clear for a long time, and it looks like, as I mentioned earlier, there might be a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel for us in 2024, so look forward to that. Item number 6, I met the new Crown Attorney. That would be James Bocking on October the 26th, and our POA manager and I had a really productive meeting in getting to meet this individual, understanding the pressures that are in front of that court and that individual, and his enthusiasm in ensuring that, like other municipalities or service managers before us, he would like to see us move in this similar direction within this planning window. And so we have agreed that we will bring before you that revised memorandum of understanding for the County of Renfrew to accept the responsibility for prosecuting those Part 3 charges within our own Provincial Offences Court. Currently, those more serious charges are handled by staff in his office, and there is a fee for service that we are paying for that. That's contained within the Provincial Offences Court budget. And so we will have our own prosecutor. The theory would be our own municipal prosecutor would carry that responsibility on a go-forward basis. There is a responsibility for us to have a supervising solicitor to ensure that our POA prosecutor is functioning within the guidelines for those services across Ontario. And so our Ashley, as our POA manager, has engaged with a number of other courts in East Region, and we are looking at or considering how we might be able to avail ourselves of that supervising solicitor engaged for all 3 municipalities mentioned in that report to ensure that we are in compliance with that memorandum and that we have that overall responsibility for prosecution being reviewed by a solicitor. Item 7, and as Craig mentioned, just another plug for the Thursday, November the 30th date at Pembroke Festival Hall. Brand new format for us. We're looking forward to this. and we encourage all counselors to use the link and sign up for the event. It should be a lot of fun on November the 30th. Item number 8, Take Our Kids to Work Day for 2023. So that's obviously an annual event across the province held in early November, where grade 9 students have an opportunity to come out into the workplace and to follow one of our staff members and really get a sense or an understanding of what the workday looks like. And we are very pleased to say that we participated in that event again this year. Co-op students, we currently are hosting a couple of co-op students at Miramichi Lodge, and of course that is again one of our workforce development activities. I forgot to mention that Take Our Kids to Work Day obviously would fall under that envelope as well. And all of those items ensuring that the next generation at the high school level and then co-op placements at the college and university level as well, availing the corporation to those sorts of opportunities, again, as part of our recruitment strategies go forward. Madam Chair, that ends the information items, so I could pause there if you wish.
Thank you. All right, we'll move back to information item number 1, council remuneration. Number 2, the treasurer's report. Number 3, all things POA. The member from Edmundston Bromley, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Mr. Foss. Actually, probably to Mr. Kelly, given the duration of Mr. Foss's continuing employee for the County of Renfrew.
6 hours and counting.
This is not likely to be accommodated in 6 hours. With respect to the charges received, so we've been talking about this forever from my perspective. Do we know, so we certainly are aware of the backlog in POA courts, the access to those, but with respect to charges, have we had any conversations with our neighboring municipalities? Are they seeing the same thing? Is the province seeing the same thing? I am challenged to understand, because I did have at a previous session where we raised this, I know I had a lot of the back contextual data from prior years, and I don't think 10,000 even was the most charges. I think there might have been a year when there were 12,000. And again, I do leave open the possibility that we are having a more law-abiding citizenry, though statistically and the probability suggests that that is unlikely. But it does strike me that we are continuing to see a diminishment in activity that is being received in our POA courts, and I'm wondering if that is consistent across the province and or at least the area, the footprint of the Warden's Caucus.
At our December meeting of Roma, Bridget Cherry from AMO is coming back. She was at our meeting last week, specifically about POA, shortages of JPs. There's a working group on fine collection and why our charges have gone down. So if you want, or Ashley can answer, but if you want, I will have a far more comprehensive report after a December Roma meeting. Ashley, do you want, yeah? Are you part of the working group?
And I do know that our neighbors have mentioned the same, and I also have access to the provincial statistics, so I could probably take a look at that and kind of do a bit of comparison as well. We have a 3-year trending thing that we can look at.
Both of those things would be outstanding. Absolutely, I would defer this to have more informed reporting on the matter. So absolutely, but I think that it is worthwhile having that because again, particularly as our population is growing, even if we are flatlining in terms of percentage of our population, it should be growing at the same pace. So I think that we should try and understand what the dynamic is at work. Thank you.
And our Roma board meeting last Friday was so jam-packed, the warden can attest to this, and there was so much interest in Bridget's report that we didn't have enough time. So we've asked her to come back, and I think we've allotted, Warden, an hour to an hour and a half with her at our December meeting, because this is a provincial issue. And I'm talking, it doesn't matter, northern, eastern. I was surprised, actually. One of the loudest voices about it were our neighbors to the north. So it's an issue all over Ontario. Very interesting, but I promise to bring back, and maybe Ashley, you and I could chat before I do my report so that we're in conjunction with each other. Perfect. Excellent. And good. So I was going to wait because there are so many POA things, but that, yeah, might as well get it over with, because it should be a very interesting conversation with the RUMA board members in December. Did I see member from Killaloo, Haggerty and Richards, please?
Thank you, Chair. The columns collection notices and to collection agencies. Do those numbers, take for example in October, 115 and 180, do they get dropped off the total then, once they go to that level?
Sorry, what was the question exactly?
Do they get dropped off the total?
No, so that's just how many we're submitting each month, or how many notices are actually being sent. So we kind of run a report each month, and it's just what we've sent month by month is in there.
Excellent, thank you. Anything further on 3? Anything on 4? Well, and I have to tell you, I'm not sure that your praise was worthy. I'm not sure how well I did at that delegation. Craig sort of, oh, I will say that Doug Downey is very engaged. He really was paying attention to the numbers. His staff were engaged, so I'm not sure if we were the reason for the 5-0 in October, but I'll take it. All right, number 5, the East Region Managers Meeting for POA. And number 6, the Part 3 prosecute. Oh, I'm sorry, member for Bemiston Bromley.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and with your leave, I was remiss. I did have some questions on 2. Do you mind if we reverse and go back? Thank you. So through you to Mr. Foss, one more time to remember. Actually, the first question I think is probably more for Mr. Davis. I just noticed, curiously, the janitorial contract here is $25,000 over budget on the quarterly basis. Yet at Renfrew County Place, it's $25,000 under. I wonder if perhaps there has been a crisscross in invoicing. It seems odd that they would be so much in alignment.
Through you for Chair, if I could. So we did change janitorial service last year, so there is a crisscross. We went up in one here and went down one in Renfrew County Place, so that's where you see the difference.
If I'm through follow-up, that's fine, but the budget is not reflecting that, i.e., at the county administration building here, we are $25,000 deficit. And at the RC Place, we are $25,000 surplus. Were the budgets not adjusted as they should have been based on the new contract? It seems odd, if the budgeting is accurate, that we would be over that much on one and under that much on the other.
Again, through you, Chair, so these contracts were halfway through the year, so we didn't have the numbers when we created this budget, and so that's the reality of midterm contracts, if that answers your question.
It does, Madam Chair, thank you. I have about 3 questions remaining, and all of them are with respect to the OPP building, the OPP section of the report, put it that way. I just note that the salary is already 114% of budget. Projecting on a full year, it would be 152. I'm just curious what the cost driver may be there.
look at Daniel first while I scroll down if I could. What page is that on? Sorry, Councillor?
It is, I believe, on page 46, Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Chair. And through you.
We had budgeted 28, just under 29,000, and at the end of Q3, it was at just under 33.
Through you, Chair. So this is it. We'll have a reconciliation at the end of the year, so we do adjust it. So we do some additional work for the OPP, but then that's a shared services with the Renfrew County Place also. So at the end of the year, while working with Daniel Burke and Jeff Foss, we'll have the adjustments at the end of the year. Oh, sorry, Mr. Burke, and I'll ask Mr. Burke. Mr. Burke will add in too, if I could.
Thank you, Director Davis, and good morning, committee. That issue is a specific issue with the staff who work at the OPP office, which is one staff member. So maybe we'll catch up later or in a future closed session, and we can explain what that is. But it's a specific to a singular employee.
Thank you. That's quite acceptable. Appreciate that, and thank you for the caution from Mr. Burke. There's two line items here that had no budget, but now do have expense: mechanical and security monitoring. I wonder if you could speak to those two. Neither of them is a large amount, but it's $15,000 where no budget was provided.
Through you, Chair. No, that's the nature of the lease with the OPP is that there are specific items they can ask us to do, which we will directly bill back to them. So we wouldn't typically expect to see work on the security system or mechanical components. That would be something they would handle themselves. But where they have asked us to do that work, we will rebill that back to them at the end of the year.
Thank you. So ultimately, I'm assuming that shows up probably in recovery somewhere. I think, revenue lease expense recoveries. Would that ultimately be captured there on the year-end reconciliation? Yes, I'm getting a nod in affirmative. Last question, Madam Chair. I'm just curious what the internal. I certainly understand what interest expense is. I'm curious what is captured in internal charges.
Through you, Chair, it should be the landscaping or lawn mowing and that type of thing, which would typically be done by in conjunction with the Renfrew County Place building. So again, sort of an annual component we would reconcile for.
So for clarity, there is a groundskeeping line that I would have thought would have captured groundskeeping issues.
And I'll reiterate, it's a bit of a reconciliation at the end of the year, so we do have it. That, again, sorry to repeat myself, but we do have a staff member at Renfrew County Place that does additional work for groundskeeping when required for OPP station.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll hold these until the budget workshop.
Yeah. All right, thank you. And now we're moving on to number 7, the 2023 Service Awards. Get your tickets. Number 8, take your kids to work day. That must have been a fun day. And number 9, co-op placements. All right, Jeff, on to resolutions.
Madam Chair, item number 10 is a resolution with respect to a letter received by the town of Arnprior and their community improvement plan. So with your approval, I'll read the recommendation that the Finance and Administration Committee recommend to County Council that staff be directed to review the information from the town of Arnprior and provide a report at a future meeting of this committee detailing the projected the projected impact on the County of Renfrew to participate in this tax assistant program for the town of Arnprior.
Thank you. I'll ask for a mover and seconder to get it on the floor, please. Moved by the member from Brudenell, Lindock and Raglan, seconded by the member from Abbotston Bromley. A little bit of background, please.
Thank you again. So under section 365.1 of the Municipal Act, a local municipality may defer or may make a decision to defer or cancel all or a portion of municipal taxes during the period in which a brownfield site is being cleaned up or redeveloped. That is the rehabilitation period as defined under the Municipal Act. But under that same program, the local municipality may reach out to their upper tier and also to the province of Ontario with respect to school taxes to participate in that same program equally with the local municipality or based on some other formula or some other percent sharing agreement or none at all with respect to the upper tier. So I think attached as an appendix, we have a copy of the request from the town of Renfrew, their report that went to council detailing their plan under this brownfield redevelopment and the request that was received by the County of Renfrew to participate in the cancellation or deferral of some of the county taxes as this 10-year planning window for the site redevelopment occurs. And so our recommendation is this committee directs staff to review this in detail and come forward with a report from your staff on our participation in this plan. Because we do not have an existing community improvement plan, this obviously would be precedent setting for the County of Renfrew, so we would want to ensure that we were very diligent in our analysis and review, and that we gave you a fulsome report on what this might look like on a go-forward basis.
Thank you for that, and you just answered my question, because I know that when Bonnechere Valley did our CIP in, I believe it was 2014, we were told unequivocally no, because the county does not have a CIP. So we do phase in new assessment, I know assessment's a bad word now, over 5 years with ours, but the county and the province for education, they were not phased in at all. So this would be precedent setting. I understand this is for one site, but yeah, so anyway, I'll open it up for discussion. Member from Abbotston Bromley, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and I concur completely with Mr. Foss's stating that it does bear careful review. I am, on the surface, on first blush, have substantial reservation, but I think that on something like this that does have the potential to be precedent-setting, as you had said, one can always disclaim that these things are not intended to be precedent, but it doesn't matter what one says if it appears to walk like a duck and quack like a duck. So in this instance, I think it is appropriate, the resolution that is before us, to give careful consideration to this and what the implications are, because this is going to be a substantial decision for the County Council.
Thank you for that. And sorry, my comments were not meant to say I don't want to see a report. It's just we have to be very careful about what this could mean, not just for this site, but for all those municipalities that have CIPs in play. Warden, please.
Thank you. I saw my colleague glancing at me as he's making comments. Just to be clear, I think it's the town of Arnprior, not the town of Renfrew. So, no, Mr. Foss did. So, I too have an open mind and haven't made any decisions on this. But thank you very much for that.
He has 1 foot out the door.
I can confirm, because I raced back to my agenda thinking I didn't see that.
I missed it because I knew it was Arnprior. All right, is there any other discussion on this item? All in favor? And your very last bylaw, I need tissue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So under bylaws, we do have a recommendation for you that I'll read into the record for your consideration, is that the Finance and Administration Committee recommend to County Council that a bylaw be adopted to enter into a service agreement renewal with Cowan Benefits Consulting for the January 1 to December 31, 2024 period, and further, the County Council adopt a bylaw to enter into a service agreement with Manulife Financial for the provision of a benefit insurance program. That's policy 4704 for the period of January 1, 24 to December 31, 2024.
Thank you. Can't wait to get to the good news story in the background. May I have a mover and seconder, please? Moved by the town of Deep River, seconded by the township of Killaloe, Haggerty, and Richards. Background, please.
Madam Chair, a short while ago, we had a presentation here for Finance Committee through Cowan Wright Beauchamp about their assistance, if you will, under contract to coordinate on our behalf and negotiate on our behalf renewal rights for our renewal rates for our municipal benefit committee group of coverage. The good news, and I think I alluded to this earlier this year, is that we had a sense that the renewal for 2024 was going to be a good news story for us. And in fact, the negotiations with Manulife have proven that we should see an annual decrease. That's not increase in our premiums, specific to the county of Renfrew, totaling about $165,000 per year. And we have attached as Appendix 6 the presentation on the renewal information for the MBC as a whole. That is good news for us, certainly in 2024 when we have some pressures on our operating side of our budget. Anything that's coming this way is good news for us. But it certainly further supports the notion that the collective size of the participating municipalities allow us not to sort of see those annual peaks and valleys in our municipal benefit coverage program, in that there is some strength in the numbers, and so that has proven itself to be valuable for 2024. And it certainly still is a difficult climate out there if you're a sole source, if your municipality is looking to negotiate for a employee benefit program individually. The calculations, the mathematics of that are challenging for you, and so this is just again more evidence that shared services is proving to have some benefit here for the County of Renfrew. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any comments, questions, concerns? I just had one. Is there any opportunity to extend that? Like we're in for a year. Is there any benefit to being locked in for 2 years, for 5 years?
And thank you, Madam Chair, for the question. I think, we would typically look to extending term if it was at all possible, because the nature of these programs are experience rated. The underwriters of the program, if you will, are hesitant to look much farther into the future to ensure that they are covering their costs, and that the experience trends are giving them some sense that the rates are where they should be. I think our experience rating target, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Belmore, is about 78%, somewhere in that range, and so they want to ensure that the actual claims costs don't exceed that level for premiums, to ensure that our rates remain exactly where they are. And of course, we have this refund accounting model that if over a number of years we begin to develop a bit of a surplus, that refund is sent back to the participating municipalities. So all around, I wish we could extend the term and kind of lock them in a little bit so we don't see some of the up and down effect of these things. But good news story this year, we are adding to our surplus in our refund accounting model, and so that news will come back before you when it is available at the end of February about your considerations on what to do with the refund if in fact there is any. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Anything further? All in favor? And that carries. The report as a whole, may I have a mover and seconder, please? Moved by the member from Killaloe, Haggerty and Richards, second by the member from Broodnell, Lindock and Raglan. Anything further? All in favor? Excellent. So that's a wrap on Jeff. Is there any new business? Well, I on behalf of this committee, and I just want to thank you so much, Jeff. You know, I think I said at County Council that you were my right hand, but I think I'm yours. So I want to thank you for timely information, for excellent reporting, and I'm really going to miss you. And see, Gwen, it's not good. I should not be allowed to say goodbye to people. Anyway, thank you so much, and we're not having lunch, but we can have a celebratory donut when we're done. We have no closed meeting, correct?
That is correct.
Excellent. Date of the next meeting will be at the call of the chair. I can't believe that's a wrap on 2023 for committees. We're officially done with committees, right? So exciting. Yep. What's that? Jason was giving me a look like, no, we've got other ones. And I will now ask for an adjournment, please. Moved by the warden, seconded by the member from Laurentian Hills. All in favor? And that's it. Thanks, guys.